All righty. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another rousing session of Revit Radio. I am Brian. This is Melissa. Desiree just got demoted, so she's not here. So here we are, last Revit Radio of the year. I didn't realize that until Civil Chat. Somebody's like, "See you guys next year." It's like, "Oh my goodness, this is the last one of the year." So glad to see everybody here. We got people from all over the place. I see a lot of people on here, so it's always good to see the familiar names and great to see a lot of the new names as well. So it's always a good thing. I didn't have a whole lot to start off with this week, this month, I should say. But one thing I actually started doing, I used this week, and Melissa, I know you guys use this tool quite often because Erin, Melissa's with Parallax. Her coworker had suggested this to me years ago, and I bought it years ago, and I use it minimalistically. And every time I use it, I'm like, oh my god, this is great tool when we get in here. So one I want to show on here is this tool called View Filter Manager. It is an add-on utility. And Melissa's probably going to know more about this than I, because she probably uses it more than I do. But one thing I love about this tool is often we've created filters, or we've got view templates, or we want to add these filters to these view templates, or certain things like that. And this is the one that I'm setting up a view template for another client, again, or excuse me, a company template for another client, tweaking theirs out. And it was like I started realizing after Revit 23, we have the capability to know in our VGs and our filters, we have the capability to enable or disable these filters, right? And I'm sure you guys do this as well when you in Parallax. But when we came out with this capability, it was one of those reasons of some of these ones that are, in my mind, somewhat critical, like, hey, changing the color of the code. I have filters for turning off elevations and linked grids and levels, etc. I might want all of those in every single view template because now we can choose to disable those, right? In the past, all we had to do is go remove all the colors, go get everything, and we get done there. And it was kind of like, oh, okay, if I have to remove the colors and remove it, it's basically, why did you add the filter? It's kind of pointless. And do you remember what year they gave that? Was that 22 or was that 23 that we had the capability to be able to turn on or enable or disable filters? I was thinking it was 23, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I feel like 22, but I've only got 23 open right now. So
I have 23 and 24 open. So, any rate, what I was going to show you on this is this does start showing you all of the different types of views. So, if you're looking for a specific type of view in your project, you can turn off views that you don't want to see to be in the list, whatever. But over here on the right, it's like, okay, I wanted to start finding some of these view templates, or maybe I wanted to go into one of these views that I know has filters in it, regardless of how you want to do it. So like for me, I can come down here and say, cool, I am looking at all of these. I was sad that you can't shift select and click these. It's kind of a downside to me on this tool, but hey, it's still at the speed of clicking 10 times as opposed to applying this to 100 templates
you
is
can
pretty
just
cool.
click the top one, can you? All of them.
You can click the top one, but like if you only wanted like a range of them, you can do this. So what you can do is come in here and say, okay, cool. I really wanted to, oh, that's destination, sorry. Yeah, so I really wanted to grab all of these parameters. And then I need to put those parameters from a certain view that I've got, not parameters, excuse me, view filters or something from one view into the other. So I come down here and select source files or view template. Actually, nope, that was right. Select views. I wanted to do this. I got to remember how to do this again. I don't use this tool that often, but when I did use this, I'm like, okay, cool. Now I want to assign this. This is the destination views. So that's not what I wanted. I wanted view templates. I want to come into like, I don't have any view templates in this file. Great. I chose a crappy file to show you. But what you can do is grab what you're using in one view with all the settings and the overrides, go ahead and grab those and say, push those into these other 10 view templates if you had them. So if you're like, oh, I need to add this, tweak this, do whatever you want, you can do it. And it's a great little tool. I think it's $100 to buy this tool. I know I bought it, I think it was last year, and I just had to install it for 24 this year. And it's a great tool. And again, the $100 it saved me there, it probably saved me 2 hours working with one of my clients. So yeah, I've used this like only 20 times in my lifetime. But when I do use it, it is a great tool to start coming in and getting in there.
It
So I
is.
don't know, how do you guys use this tool, Melissa? Basically the same thing?
Yeah. Well, especially because we did add all of our filters just so everybody has the same list in every view template so they can get used to it. So
Yep.
yeah, add all the view filters and then turn things off that we don't want.
Yeah, it's kind of one of the things to me. And again, so I need to go back into my 23 template because I just upgraded my template to 23 and start pushing this tool out. And that's what made me think of it. So I thought I would use this as my thing. Somebody said, can we have the link to that tool?
I should find that. Oh, and
Let's
Brian
see.
was asking if it allows you to copy filters from view template to view template. And yeah, so you can do the filters, just the filters, or the filters and the overrides, which is usually the pain in the behind.
The only one I found it didn't do, there was one of the overrides it did not pick up on. I don't remember which one it was. Like, was it the halftone checkbox or maybe it was I don't remember. And maybe they fixed it. The last time I used it, I was like, oh, it's not set at picking up on this one override. And I did put a post of that in the chat for everybody to see. So it was Revit 22. Everybody said we had the enable disable filters. Cool. Thank you for that. All righty. So should we jump into some questions here?
Yes. Well, here's a good one. Tom's asking if you've ever heard of or used the Filter More app.
Have not heard of the Filter More app. Let's see.
I have.
And do you use it?
Yes, although now I can't find it. Wait, my hard drive died on my desktop, so I'm moving back into my desktop after replacing a hard drive. Yes, Tom's got the filter or the link for it.
Oh, thank you, Tom.
Apparently I didn't load it into my 23.
Filter More. Here we go. So no, I have not seen this one.
Yeah, so it's another, we love the One Osborne stuff, but it lets you like pre-choose the kind of stuff you're gonna get and gives you extra choices and filters. Yes, I would go through it more, but I didn't actually load it. Another one that's probably worth the $4.99 because does it have the videos?
Screenshots and videos down here.
Oh, yeah, there you go. So you can do pre-filter. So you can basically say, I only want to pick these things. And then window select. But yeah, if you look at some of those screenshots down at the bottom.
So is this more like a selection filter type tool?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, and you can actually set it so that it comes up instead of your
Got it.
box filter. Yeah, so you can see that you can get down there to Revit links. You can go down to like the actual link or I think in walls you can start filtering by some of the parameters instead of just getting walls.
Yeah, for me, I have the Ideate tools, and so I would be using the Ideate Explore tool for this because it does very similar things. I can start grabbing these things, go into it a little bit more when you start getting into it. So I have a very similar tool. So no, I've never used this
That
tool.
is fair. I will say $4.99 is a bit cheaper than the Ideate tool.
I was just gonna say I think the price tag of $5
of us that are not blessed with the Ideate tools,
which is a little bit cheaper than the Ideate tool. So
yes,
so have not seen that tool, have not used it, but yeah. There's a lot of things too. I think a lot of people, because I know most people have PyRevit installed, and I don't think that a lot PyRevit, they know that there are some tools on here for like the pick drop down that you can say, hey, I only want to be able to pick detail elements, or I only want to be able to pick model elements is one of those features. So if you pick this first, it won't let you. So like if I did, which one did I just pick? We'll see. If I do this big giant selection window, notice it didn't grab the room tags, the area separation lines, none of that stuff. It only allows me to grab those model components. So you do have some of those tools with the PyRevit, which I know a lot of people have installed, which has the same thing there too. And I think it's got something similar on the select. You can start doing a whole bunch of different tools with the select tools in PyRevit. So dig through some of those if you do have it. I know most people have PyRevit installed, so just look at some of those features as well.
Well, that's a really great segue to Jason's question.
I love it when you start. We get those nice segue questions.
I know that was well played, Jason. He's saying, do you have to do anything special to install PyRevit? IT just spent a good 6+ hours over 2 days trying to get it to work without throwing errors, which also broke it in previous versions. Well, that's a fun feature, Jason.
Yeah, the special thing I had to do to install it was double click the executable. That's what I had to do special.
Yeah, I remember I never did successfully get it at my last firm because of some of the IT, the lockdown type stuff.
Yeah, I'm a horrible person to ask on stuff like that because I'm my own admin, so I have full rights to everything. So it's just like cool,
You're the one that
install,
has to
go.
fix it if you completely screw up everything.
Yeah, I do recall though that when I originally was looking at this for one of my clients, there's a user level and a system level. And if you've got crazy IT lockdowns, you have to install it at one of those levels for it to work. Oh yeah. And Dan saying the same thing.
Mm.
Yeah, big thing is not Revit running, but I'm assuming IT didn't have Revit running for Jason. But yeah, those are the things I have no idea on how that stuff gets installed. I'll be curious to see what happens in the future too. So like a lot of you, if you didn't know this, it was on the Revit roadmap that Revit is the next version of Revit will be on .NET point 8.0. Right now we're on .NET 6. So I'm wondering how many add-in utilities are going to have issues when they start switching to the .NET. I think PyRevit will be one of those as well. So I think there's going to be a lot of rewriting on the PyRevit tools.
Yeah.
Hopefully, rewriting on the PyRevit tools to make sure it's compatible with .NET 8. But I
Yeah.
don't know. I talked to a lot of the developers at AU, and they're like, oh yeah, that's a big deal. We've got to spend some time looking into that. Some of them like had no clue. Like, really? They are? Oh, didn't know that. So
Perfect. Yeah. Yes, that will definitely be a thing people should keep an eye on for their favorite plugins because that will be a big deal for some of them. Well, it'll be a big deal for all of them. But yes, might be especially hard for certain people, especially when they got a full-time job now and
yeah, exactly. I
might
I
not
keep
have as much time to update their free.
you'll have to talk to John and Laura and see how bad it's going to affect them.
Oh, we're getting some good. So sounds like a bunch of people are not having issues. Rick just said he was like, "Can we start over?" We can give you Cliff's notes. I'm back from Australia and not sick, so hi everybody. Should get you filter manager. Awesome.
So
Also,
it's actually funny because we guessed the Zoom thing, but I don't know if anybody's played with the Zoom new AI features. But if you turn the Zoom AI features on, one of the things that can be is if somebody comes in late, they can go to the AI feature and say, "Catch me up," and it will summarize what was discussed at the meeting up until the point they came in, which is
oh,
pretty crazy. It'll also another feature is to send you an email at the end summarizing the. So it's not like a transcript; it's a summarization in little paragraphs of what was discussed during the meeting.
that does sound awesome because I am pretty rubbish at taking good notes. I'm like, oh, I'll totally remember this.
You totally remember this. Yeah, if I had the rights to the Zoom meeting, since GEI Civil Chat Brian Haley's GEI does his, they allow us to use theirs as well. So I would love to turn that on just so when I'm actually putting in what was discussed in my YouTube recordings, I can actually have little notes of what was discussed. I don't have to go back and partially watch the recordings. Okay, so what other questions have we got?
Let's see. Just looking through the chat. It looks like Jason, you might be alone on. Well, I personally had issues getting PyRevit to go with my workplace, but it sounds like other people are not. So sorry about that, I guess.
Yeah.
Let's see. Let's do some of Desiree's wonderful questions since she got promoted and then kicked out for them. So Desiree is asking, what is a good way to show overframing without using a filled region?
So I was sitting there thinking on this one, and I don't know. Well, and I had a crazy thought on this one. Wait, am I in the Revit 24? I am in 24. I need to actually go here first. Come on. Zoom has not been treating me well lately with it was like it was terrible for a while, then it was good for a while, and now it's back into being terrible again. Sample files. Let's go to the Revit structure. So what Desiree means is like a residential type area. Um, how are we going to show where there's overframing on a roof or a truss? So my one thought on this, and I don't know how well this is going to work, but with the new load tools, we can actually do area loads, which will host themselves to the hosted object and update with the hosted object. So my thought was we could actually just do an area load, change the hatch pattern on the area load, and then use that for the look of the overframing. Obviously, probably not going to work perfectly if you're actually using the loads for engineering. Then you've got this weird extra load on there. And why is this guy? I love Zoom and Revit. I'm just opening the sample file. Come on. Wow. Ooh. Maybe I should just go close 23 as well, even though there's nothing on it. I opened it just in case, but okay. So one of my thoughts was I'm just going to go to the structural parapet. Sure, that should probably work. So one of my thought on it was is we can in the analysis tools, or is it in the structure? I think it's in the analysis tools. It's not in structure, right? No. Yeah, path reinforcement. Yeah, it's under analyze. So in the analyze tab, we do have the do panel, boundary, loads. We have our loads button up here. And when we go to the loads, we can actually do area loads now. And when we do the area load, we should be able to pick the host. Pick an analytical panel first. I keep forgetting how they changed this. So let me go hide my walls. And then I've got to go generate. I don't want the structural framing any. Is this the system? There we go. So I got to remember how to come in here. So I've got to go do area panels. Yeah, you can tell I have not used these too much in 24 when they rechanged everything. So analytical, no, I don't want the automation. I just wanted to go do a panel. I clicked the wrong button, and now we're gonna have to wait forever today. My thought was we can go create an analytical panel. And once that analytical panel is created, what we could do is then do an area load based off that analytical panel. The analytical panel will be associated to the roof that we're using, and then we should be able to color code that. Cool, it didn't open. Analytical panel. Yeah, no, there it goes. Come back here, analytical panel. I think we can just do it on the boundary. I think we can just pick this object. I think we have to draw it first and then associate it to the object. Finish. All right, and so then we come up here and we go ahead and do the analytical. I don't want to do this as a load. We can pick that analytical property, which is probably turned off, which is part of a view template. Let's just go say none to this. Since it's not a real file and I can break that. Sweet, that's a lot of analytical stuff inside of here. But now I can be able to go in here and do my, no, don't click that button, Brian. Select the panel. Why am I not seeing the panel? Can I do it from 3D? Well, I'm massively struggling with this one here. Come on.
You just say more nice things to it.
That's also because that stupid site file is inside of here that I forgot to turn off.
Hey, sites are not stupid.
Yes, I know. Did this one right? Yeah, so there it is. Let's see if I can pick that analytical model now. So analyze, let's come up here and say my load, let's pick the panel. There we go. I might have to do area because it's actually picking up on the whole panel. But my theory on that was is once we've got that done, you can then start going in and determining what type of load it is, and we can color code those loads. I forget where that tool is. I don't think it's just going to be in here. It is not distance between arrows. I don't need them that close. Sure, whatever. But as we start going through there and setting this up, we'll be able to go through and then set those up for color. And I'm trying to remember how we did that. I think it was based off of the load case. So you could create a different load case that you wanted to do inside of there. And then in the roof plan, we should be able to go in, I forget where it is, under the analytical models, which are all turned off. Analytical panels were turned off. That's why I didn't see them earlier. That we can come through here and then start color coding that. I got to remember how to do the color coding, but that's kind of where my thought was going. And the reason for it is if the roof or the floor plan updates, it's going to update with it as well. So that's kind of one of my theories. I'd have to sit down and play with this a little bit more, but we should be able to go through and get that set up according to that way. My guess, I don't know, play with it. You might tell me I'm crazy. I'd say next Revit radio session, but that'd be like in 3 hours. So cool. What else do we got?
Well, since we kind of semi-failed on that one, we'll do Desiree's other question. Can a wall tag show lengths of openings that are inserted into the wall?
No, but you could do something else. So if I come back to this little file here, I was trying to set this up. So if I grab this, change this to be a wall that actually has some thickness to it. Cool, there we go. Actually, I don't have to do that. Let me just change my phase in here to be my legend phase, and there'll be a whole bunch of openings in these walls over here. So when you look at a dimension string, your dimension strings do have the capability to come in here, and there's a checkbox for show opening. So show openings, we can, well, that's the opening heights. I was thinking opening, you want widths. Well, that's okay. If I go dimension an entire wall, then I can actually change this option to show the openings, and I can go to the widths, say, okay, so here I can give the opening widths as well as the opening heights inside of there. That's what I would be doing, but I don't think there's a way in a tag to say, hey, what openings are inside of here. The other thing on this dimension is it truly has to be a family that has an opening. If your family is created using voids, this opening height trick and the dimension to openings does not work. So if it's a family of voids, Revit doesn't see that void as an opening, it sees it as a void. So it truly has to be in the family where that's an opening inside of the family. But I would just do this with a dimension and do the entire wall inside of there. But otherwise, no, a tag cannot show that. You have to do this. Now I could tag each individual door or whatever it is with an opening width, and I could do that as well. Why is this one not giving me my side light? Well, it's probably because my side light is actually It's probably because this one is like jogged because I have the capability in this door to have the sill come up. So I'll have to look at that. That's very interesting because it's getting me this side light, but why isn't it giving me this side light? Man, I just realized one of my families is broken. Don't you hate it when that happens?
Yes, I do. Yeah, you just do wait.
Note to self.
AI can summarize that for you later.
Yeah.
Remember the part where you found the broken thing in front of everybody? Perfect.
Perfect. What else do we got?
Okay, well, let's go to Simon's dimension. Do you know how to set the dimension value to be in between the dimension ticks instead of above the dimension ticks?
So we were doing this. Let's go out of the type. Let's get rid of the opening height, and then it is text. It is, isn't there? Or is it up here? I thought there was something that was in line with leaders. Down here, text location. Now. Text background. Trying to remember. There's something like in line with text or extension lines, but maybe I'm thinking of the arrows too. That's leader. No, that's the leader when it moves. That's the tick mark. Maybe I'm thinking of a dimension, an angular dimension too. What if you changed your text offset? Can you put a negative value in there? I doubt it. Yeah. I don't know if there is. I've never wanted my dimension text between it. Is it if you also change the leaders? Revit's got some weird things. Let's change the leader type. Or not the leader type, the tick mark to be arrows. Does that change anything down here? I don't think so. Because I know I've had it where that dimension comes between, but am I thinking of the radial dimension? It's just going to be the units. I don't know if there is. Yeah, I'm not finding it, so I don't know if there is, but I swear to God, is it if I draw something that's curved, is it on the radial dimension? I swear I've seen that somewhere. Dimension, the radial. Change it from that one to this one. Oh, that's diameter. I thought I had a standard one there. Man, my template got mine. This is an old template I'm using. Text offset, up and left, aerial, transparent. I thought there really was one to get this in line with text.
Yeah, it sounds familiar, but I can't.
Yeah, and Tom said there was a way to do it in Dynamo, but you'd have to keep running the Dynamo script. Maybe I'm just
way to deal with Dynamo.
maybe I'm just thinking of something else that I can't that I was thinking it was in here, but obviously not. So I'm gonna have to say no to that because it does not look like we have that capability. Because I swore in my diameter I've had it between. Center marks, dimension styles, no. So leader, that's just the dots, that's just the leaders. Should be down here where the text is, but I'm not. Yeah, I guess the answer to that one is no. So I forgot who asked that one, but I'm not finding it inside of there.
Okay, sorry, Simon. Well, or it might make you feel better.
Yeah.
So just says if you set it to 0 and make sure the text background is opaque, then it kind of looks like it is.
Yeah, just set it to 0 and put a really big border. Put a
Just
really
put
big
text
border.
over it; it'll be fine.
Yeah, there you go. Just put a really big border on that. Go ahead and type. Change your border up here to be something, text offset is 0. Oh, that's actually in text. You don't get that in dimensions.
All right, so what we're getting at is you should just solve world hunger instead of this problem, Simon.
Wondering if, yeah, it's fine. Don't care. I was trying to see if, like, even the ordinate or the baseline or the ordinate did it. But, yeah. Oh, there you go. You can just cover up half your tick mark too. Got nothing. Yeah, and Dan posted one in there saying, here's the Dynamo trick to do it. Or just tell your company to create different standards. Because I'm not going to try to remember to run Dynamo every single time and then have to move the text around. That just seems insane to me.
But we really like to reinvent the wheel every time.
Yep, absolutely. So what else we got?
All right. Oh, yeah, it's been on the Autodesk ideas board for a while. Yeah. Let's see. Here's another dimension question from Joseph. Is there a proper way to work with dimensions across dependent views, like 4 sectors in a square, so that you don't have to just hide the dims from one view in another and chase the dims in every view?
Personally, for me, I'm not a big dependent view fan. I'm not saying that doesn't mean you shouldn't use dependent views, but for me, dependent views are so glitchy in the fact that like you're just asking with dimensions or even tags or any sort of those annotative objects. But the other thing that I found is when you do plan regions, depending on what those plan regions are touching, they can affect other dependent views because the plan region is still going to be in the parent view. So for me, honest truth, after I have dependent views, um, duplicate as dependent. I personally convert them all to be independent views. So I start off with views possibly dependent, and then I come back and make them independent. So if we come back here, did I delete my dimension in that parent view? Or did I do that in a different view? I did it in a different view. Well, which view was I in? We should make the view I was independent. I was in a code plan. Cool. We're gonna make this one a dependent view. So we can have the dimensions already set there. So yeah, when you go create that dependent view, you can come over here and go, cool, I'm going to move this in. Now, theoretically, your dimensions, if they're outside of the annotated prop region, this should come. And so that's one of the big things you need to understand with dependent views is the annotated prop regions. Because those annotated prop regions are going to be things like room tags. So if I come down here and I pull this in short and the rooms or the area in this case is still visible, those tags are going to be displayed, right? Dimensions should still cut themselves off. In like this case, you can see now the dimension went away entirely, which I was really confused on that one. I would have thought part of it would have stayed. Oh, it's because it's an ordinate dimension.
Mm.
If you get rid of sure, we'll just go to default inches, and then we'll bring this back in. So, but these are kind of some of those things. You can see that theoretically, though, the dimensions should take care of themselves. But like these annotative objects, you're going to see they stay. So I'm constantly seeing people go right-click, hide and view, right-click, hide and view, right-click, hide and view on a ton of things because it's the annotative thing. One of those is the annotative prop region, so do check that. So notice when I turn that annotative prop region in, they turn off. Because if they are not fully engulfed in the annotative prop region, then they will turn off the second they go outside of that annotative prop region. So that becomes huge when working with dependent views. Otherwise, for me, honest truth, I use dependent views, and I'll show you why in a second to start. But then once I'm done, I right click on this and I go ahead and make it independent. Where is it? Convert to independent view. So that's personally for me because people are constantly doing things. And I know a lot of people disagree with me. Like, oh, but then I've got a dimension in 2 views, or I've got a tag in multiple views. And I'm like, yeah, but for me, that's kind of like I'm not hiding right click, hide and view 100 things either. The modeling is going to update. For me, the dimensions of things are usually specific to the view. I'm not that upset if I have to do this. The other thing that I do want to show people that a lot of people don't know, so my scale is 1/8 of an inch here. What I love about creating dependent views is when I do this, I'm going to go throw in a match line in here, right? So I'm going to go back to the parent view just so I can do this real quick. So I was like roughly in here, don't really care, but I'm going to go into my view tab and I'm going to throw in a match line. I think it's on the view tab. I always forget where they are. Yay. So we're going to pretend there's a match line right here. Great. Yep. And then I'm going to go duplicate this one more time. So I have a right and a left. Duplicate as dependent. Right. So this is going to be my view that's to the right of the match line. And I'm going to rename it right. And then I'm going to take the other one, move it to the other side of the match line, wherever that may be. Cool. I'm going to rename this one left. Just so my brain keeps track of this. So what's great about dependent views, and a lot of people don't know this, is if I go to my view tab and I do a view reference, right? I can say, hey, I'm going to look at the related views and I'm going to put the one on this side and the one on this side. And I have no way. Oh, I know why they're not showing. So I can put those 2 view references on here, right? And then when I have those view references, I can say, okay, this view reference is going to be the targeted view. Why did it not give me the right one? Why am I not getting left and right? Let's try placing it.
Showing people how easy it is.
Well, I'm wondering if it's because I'm actually in an area plan. I don't usually do these related views, targeted view type. Yeah, it doesn't matter if it's on sheets yet or not. I should still be able to see those. Cool. Let's go do this on an actual floor plan. I got one up here. Let's duplicate this as dependent view as well. This is very, very bizarre. I've not ever had that not work for me, unless my view title is broken. My view title or my view reference could be broken. No, I said dependence.
You'll find all the broke things.
As dependent. There we go. So again, we'll try this again here. So 2 is on the right, 1 is going to be on the left. Cool. And now we'll try to go place my view references. It could be my bubble could be broken. I'm on a very old, this is like an in-between template. View reference, related views. Now, see, I don't know why I wasn't getting this. Maybe it's an area plan thing. Maybe you can't do it in area plans. I've never done it in an area plan. So dependent 1 is going to be on the left, right? And then I'm going to go place another one and it's going to be on the right. So view reference, dependent 2. So what's great about those is once I do this and once I place these onto a sheet, they're going to fill themselves out automatically. What most people don't know is if you right click on a parent view, you can apply dependent views. So as long as I have a view of the same scale, so I wanted to go do this in my reflected ceiling plan and my finished plan. So I'm gonna do my finished plan and my reflected ceiling plan. And once I say okay to this, now what's great about this is if I go to that reflected ceiling plan and I look at it, it's generated the two views for me. It's not going to name them. If I called it left and right, it doesn't name them, unfortunately. What's great about this is the view references are set up accordingly. So the view references get set up automatically for me. So when I get in a project that's got like 10, 10 match lines or 10 sector plans, and we're going through and looking at this, I set up one and I always call it my template. So in my little system views or my working views, I call it my dependent view template. And therefore I can just apply that to everything else. But I always make sure I go and set up all of my view references first. I love that. That's a pain to set these up. The one client I had, they were on 36 by 48 sheets for the Miami Beach Convention Center. And I think they had 48 sector plans to get that on at 1/8 inch scale. So all 48 sector plans with this in the top, every single corner of every single match line, it took the one person like a day to do that. Using that dependent view, apply dependent views, and boom, it sets them all up. Now, they would still come back and be like, okay, let me grab dependent one, let me grab dependent one, let me grab dependent one, and associate them to the appropriate scope box. That's how they would go through and set up. So it's not going to give you scope boxes and assign them if your other view already had it, but you can start using that tool to get all of these in there. Then, like I said, for me, most of the time, once I do all that, and I would just come in here and say, cool, one at a time. Come on, give me one. Right click on it, and I say convert to independent view because of the dimensioning issues, because of the scope block reads, I am not a big dependent view fan. I don't use them that often. I find, especially on large projects, so many people are right clicking, hiding so much stuff in views. You do 5,000 things you've right clicked and hit on, it's going to slow you down more than just creating independent views. I don't know. Do you guys use the dependent views often, Melissa?
We do have the area plan set up with all the dependent views.
So once I start seeing people do that, I'm like, just convert them to dependent. But yeah, so I mean, the best way to work for it, in my opinion, is not use dependent views. But if you're like the dimensions, I didn't understand that part of the question because dimensions should be taking care of themselves. They should just turn on and off if the tick mark is not going to be inside of there. But the things like tags, etc., no, you're going to be battling those all of the time. So hopefully that answers, I forget who asked it, answers that question.
Oh, we've got a match lanes versus Keyplans question. Which is better? Do you like Keyplans in the title block?
I do Keyplans as part of the title block. So for me, my Keyplan is a generic annotation family that has toggles for each one of the different areas of the Keyplan. And again, a Keyplan to me is, I see people get so worried about it being exactly correct. Like, oh, but I need to show the walls. And I just, no, you just need some lines that represent what it is. And do that. And then I build it into the Keyplan. And the Keyplan, that generic annotation family is shared and it has inside of it all of the different areas. So sector A, sector B, sector C, whatever. And then in each one of my title blocks, I select that title block family and I choose which sector plan I need to put inside of there. I also like doing it that way because now I can give that title block to every consultant. So structure is using the same key plan, MEP is using the same key plan, etc. And we're not trying to say, oh, well, I did it as dependent views in mine, and we've got to force that upon everybody else to get them in there as well. The other thing is I know a lot of people, well, I like dependent views for that. I change the scale to something ridiculous. But if I have sector, I need to show that key plan in my floor plan, my finish plan, my furniture plan, my reflected ceiling plan. There's 7 plans of the same thing. Then I'm duplicating that sector 7 times as a dependent view. So I've got, sector A 7 times, sector B 7 times, just to get it in all of those different types of plans we're looking for. Obviously, structure MEP, or well, MEP would have one for each discipline, a little bit different for me. So yeah, I always, always, always do it in as part of my title block. And the reason why I make it a shared generic annotation family is if somebody's in the project and they want to go ahead in that project and edit it, they can just edit the generic annotation family from here, tweak it, reload it in, and the title block updates. So that's how I set it up for all my clients. Plus, then it's always in the same location next to the title block. I don't have to worry about people slightly moving it around.
Right. Yeah, yeah, we do that with our Keyplans also.
So hopefully that makes sense. I was trying to think if I had an example on my machine. Actually, I do. So I can probably go open it. We'll have to wait for it to upgrade, but I know. I know this one client that I created this for a while ago. I probably have more recent clients, but I can't think of them. Annotations. Or do I have it under title blocks? No, title blocks. Probably just the 30 by 42. Shouldn't take too long to upgrade. Just this family should be good. Yeah, so you'll see inside of here. So this is the title block, and in my title block family. So this is a nested generic annotation family, my title block. But in the title block family, then I do a family type parameter. And in my family type parameter here, you can come and choose which key plan you want. So I need area A, area B, you hit the apply, you can't see the hatch, but there's a hatch there, area C, etc., or all of the areas and it hatches all of them. Or I can come back and say, hey, there's no key plan, and I hit apply, and that just turns the key plan off. And in that family, if we start looking at it, all it is very simplistic family that just has a couple filled regions. It's got original lines drawn in. The filled regions, I think, have invisible lines around the perimeter. I can't remember, but it's just a whole bunch of filled regions, and each filled region is assigned to a visibility parameter. So this is just a line representing where like the match lines would be. My insertion point lines up with the corner where I want it to go on the title block. The word key plan is here, which also has a visibility associated to it. And then all of the different family types are just inside of here. But the reason why I do it this way is if that way somebody's in there like, oh, well, in this particular sheet, I need to show A and D or something like that. And I needed that inside of there. And then all I have to do in the project is just duplicate it in the project. So, oops, right click one of these, say duplicate, call it A and D, right? A and D, whatever. And now I've got my A and D here. And then in my type properties for A and D, I'd be like, gee, I just need A and D, but I didn't need B and C. And so now I've just created a new one to use within the project. Then if somebody else needs to be like, oh, cool, we added on to this building and there's now an area E, they can edit that family, just reload it to the project, send it to all the consultants, and now we've got that set up inside of there. So that's personally how I like to do it. I think it's a lot more beneficial to do it this way. But I do know a lot of my clients are like, no, no, no. Then the building footprint, this is actually 12 feet, not 20 feet. That's not scaled correctly. It's nobody's dimensioning off of this. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I really hope not. Yeah, that's how we do it too. And of course there's the obligatory, and then you can use Dynamo to automatically change it all. Or an
Yeah,
app.
and then put several of my clients based off of whatever you put for the sheet name. If it says, sector A, then it goes in and toggles on the sector A, B, C, etc. So you can also do that if you make this generic annotation. No, you can't schedule title blocks. I was gonna say, could you do that in the schedule? But you can't schedule title blocks. So, but that's my theory on doing key plans. There's a lot of theories. I know a lot of people do the dependent view theory. Some people go create a legend and drag that legend onto each sheet. Again, all of the legend theory, I don't like it all because then you've got to create every discipline's got to create that legend, and then somebody's got to put it on the sheet. My mind is like, man, I'd rather just have it there. It's always in the same location. It's much easier to deal with, and we just toggle it on and off.
I concur. And yes, it definitely doesn't have to be perfect. You just need to get an idea of which chunk you're looking at. Let's see. Oh, here's one from Rick. Can scope boxes be shared to other projects? i.e., if architectural sets up scope boxes, can MEP copy those?
I know so many people have created like Dynamo scripts to do this, etc. Natively, what you can do is tab select if you're the other discipline needing it, copy to clipboard, paste same place. So that's how you can go through and set that up. I know there's Madden utilities out there. I think there's one called like is it Synchronizer or something like that. I know a lot of people have Dynamo scripts. I think somebody was telling me that the CTC tools will do something like that too. I don't remember, but natively, no. All you can do is tab select, copy to clipboard, paste, or open up that file, copy them all to the clipboard in the same session of Revit, and then paste it into your project, same location. Of course, that also assumes you have the same project location, so project orientation. So yeah, but unfortunately, no, there's no tool to automatically copy those. Oh yeah, and Jason's putting up, thank you, Jason, putting the synchronizer link up there.
Yep. And of course, Dynamo.
And of course, Dynamo. I don't know, my wish list item is just being able to actually size the scope boxes. I want to give it a real number.
Yeah.
So yes, Jason put synchronizer up there. Thank you for that, Jason. I did get the name right. Yay.
Woohoo. Okay. Just seeing if there's any more of that. I think the rest are kind of a clean. And now we're moving on from this bit. Yes, scope boxes to be something other than square or rectangle.
I'm easy. I just
for
want
that.
I want to be able to determine their size. I'm easy. In 24, we can now set up the height of them. We can actually give a real number for the height.
Which is, that's a start.
It's a start.
Okay. Let's see. Let's go back up here. No, Dan is asking, have you had any recent issues troubleshooting ADC unclean workspaces? So
I don't know what an unclean workspace is in Desktop Connector, so I honestly don't know what that means. So no, I haven't had an issue because I don't even know what you're talking about.
Dan, clean your room, geez.
So yeah, I mean you can come to Docs or Drive, but inside of here you can select projects, but I don't know what you mean by unclean projects. So I know you can do this and link this out, but
oh, there you go. He's got a link for you.
no, I haven't seen that issue. I have had an issue where one point in time, and this one scared the crap out of me, that somebody came into they were just in their computer using like File Explorer, right? And I don't know if they went through Autodesk Docs or if they went to like their C drive, but they're like, oh, I no longer need this project. And they deleted the project. I don't think they deleted the project. I think they deleted like one of the folders or something and literally deleted it out of the Autodesk Construction Cloud.
That's a feature.
Yeah, it's a great feature. They're just like, oh, I don't need this, delete. And it deleted the entire half of the project folder underneath under Autodesk Docs. And the person only had read-only permissions or like read and view and download permissions, but they didn't have full managed positions, deleted everything. And I also then found out in Autodesk Docs that when you go to restore a folder, it doesn't restore any subfolders. So then you have to go to every subfolder and in those subfolders, restore all the files in that subfolder. Yeah, it was a very large project. The BIM manager on the other architect side spent like 2 days restoring all his files, and I spent like a day and a half restoring them all on my client side. It was not a pretty picture.
Yeah.
So yes, do be aware of that. But no, I will have to look into the cleanup bad drives. I have not heard of that before, so I'll have to go through and look that one up. But it looks like you have a help file that's going to talk about it. So.
Yeah, sorry, Dan. You just got to keep it clean like the rest of us, clearly. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Regarding a cloud work shared project containing several linked models and nested linked models, when publishing to the cloud, should attachment or overlay be designated for the linked models or the nested linked models?
It depends on how you want to set the project up and how the entire team is looking. Usually linked models are going to be set to overlay. And the reason for that is, let's say I set my structural model up to be attachment. And then my structural engineer opens up my model. He's going to get a circular chain of references because he can't link his own model into himself. So what the difference is when you say an attachment, that's going to say, hey, I'm going to take all of those links along for the ride and I'm going to display them on anybody else who links it in. So if you're talking like you're doing multifamily and each unit is a link, or you're doing like, hotels and each hotel room, whatever, those are links. Those are going to be your nested links. Those ones, most of the time, you're going to want to set up as an attachment. But also understanding if you do set those up as an attachment, when you send your file to somebody, or if they're looking at your file, they also have to have permissions to and have the nested files as well. And what I mean by that, one of my clients set up their BIM 360 site and they had the nested links under a different folder than the parent that nobody had rights to read or view. So it was like, cool, you got them as overlaid, but we can't, or excuse me, got them as attachments, but we can't currently see those. So you have to make sure you're giving everybody all of those rights when you do it. So, or access to those files as well. But yeah, so usually things like that, hotel rooms, whatever, those nested links are going to be an attachment, but always everything else should be an overlay. Now, do you guys do that differently, or do you do the same type of scenario there, Melissa?
We usually go with overlay for everything since we use groups.
Yeah, that's what I assumed. The other thing that is funny though is you do have nested links inside of there. It's like the apartment thing. Just do understand when you go, and most people don't know this, but like when you go into visibility graphics and you look at your Revit links, you can expand this. Normally there's only one underneath there, it doesn't matter. But if you've like put a link in there and copied around 30 times, like a typical apartment or whatever, each one of those copies is going to then be a nested link underneath the parent link. I always tell people if you are doing something like that, make sure you rename these appropriately. Don't just leave it 1, 2, 3, 12, 24, whatever. If you're thinking like it's an apartment, give it the unit number, set it all up. The other thing on that too is when you start looking at that, then each one of those links, each one of those nested links can also have its different work set. So if I come in here, let me just go into my manage links real quick because I got to turn it on. Manage links. Let me just go turn one of these on. Let me go ahead and reload it. No, so it's not finding it. But what I was going to say is if you copy that link around, you will notice with link files, there is a type property for work set and an instance property for work set. So it's kind of the same theory. So if you want to really manage those with work sets, like the type property could be unit types. And then the instance properties could be like level 1, level 2, level 3. So you could choose to not load all the level 1 links, but still load the level 2 links as you're opening up the file. So if you are doing it that way and you're going through and setting something up, I would really recommend looking at the instance and type properties of all of those links and renumbering each one of them accordingly. What else we got?
All right, that was cloud linking. All right, Rick is asking, do you model roof decking as structural floor so you can get the profile right in section cuts? Or
Yes.
are there good ways of doing that?
Yeah, no. So what Rick's talking, and a lot of architects, I don't even know if they know this feature exists. But if I go into one of my sections, don't I have sections over here somewhere? I know I do somewhere.
Sure.
Working. I got a section somewhere. So when you're in a floor and you go into that floor, going to thin lines here. Of course, I chose one going the other direction. Let's go into. Where's my cross section? There it is. Got a weird sun glare on my computer screen. So with floors, you can actually have them do the structural deck, right? You can create a profile for this, which I don't know why they call it a profile because it's not the same as any other profile. But like I've done profiles to make it look like 2x6 decking. So like if I'm doing a wood deck residentially, I can do this. But you can have floors have a property to show this to you when you cut them. It's not modeling that. It is actually only coming in and just giving you a 2D scenario. But you'll see up here that one of the options on floors for the type of thing is you've got your structure, your substrate, etc. But one of them is also structural deck. If you set that to be structural deck, you can then come down here and choose what profile, and again, I'm air quoting profile because it's not truly a profile, you want it to be. So you can get this to be displayed. So if you're looking at, hey, I'm truly doing a roof, but I want to see the metal deck and the roof, you can't use the roof tool to do that. You have to use the floor tool to do it, which is why most of your structural engineers are doing their roofs as floor slabs. Plus, analytically, prior to 24, and I can't answer yes or no on this one in 24, but in previous releases, if you wanted to use the analytical features, it had to be a floor. Roofs had no analytical properties. So that's why the other engineers do it that way as well. But no, I don't have any other way to get this to be displayed, Rick. I mean, if you wanted to, you could go model like a beam system that modeled every single one of these things in there, then have your floor sit on top. But in this case, like this, you're not even going to get it to go in and out of the grooves. So there's really no other way to do it. But yes, if you wanted to see this on roofs, then you're going to be doing those roofs as individual floors. And since you can't have dual slopes, definitely going to be doing those floors or modifying sub elements to do that as well. But yeah, I do have a blog post on this too. If you guys are ever curious, like you don't have to do just structural metal deck. I have tongue and groove. I have flooring. I have all the stuff on that too. Let's just see. Deck. So multiple different ways to go through and set that up. And then here is the blog I was talking about. So, out of the box, that's what you get. But you can start making it look like 2x. And again, I didn't model all these. This is literally just the deck profile to come in and start giving me what I wanted it to look like for different types of wood decks. I will put that in the chat as well.
Very nice.
So what's some other ones?
So we have one from Yasser saying, sometimes while putting detail components in a section view, Revit says that the angle is too sharp and you need to change your work plane. I changed the work plane, but I got the same error and it wouldn't solve the issue. Do you have any ideas?
Make sure the work plane you're setting up is parallel to the view you're in. So like if I were to go set my work plane up to be grid B inside of it, what's the detail component? It shouldn't matter.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting.
There's something really weird going on with your view if that's the case. Did you possibly put detail components on first and then somehow somebody rotated the view? It's like if I come into this view, which view is this called? This is called press section. So if I come in here and throw a detail component on here to annotate component, cool, I'm gonna put it right here at grid D. So my grid line D, I've got this detail component, but if I came back down to the floor plan, working, I put it up top, shouldn't matter. We'll just go like the L5 view. And I find that cross section. Do I have sections? I'm wondering if somebody rotated it and now your detail items are associated to that. And so now you can't. Filters do I have? These are on. Why am I not seeing it? Thought I knew this cross section. What's my height of scales coarser than 1/8? That's probably what it is. Still not seeing it. Our section's actually on. Sections are on. Phasing, discipline, coordination. This should all be new construction. I don't know why I'm not seeing that section. Or am I just blind and not seeing it? But I was wondering if that would be the case. So I'm not sure on that. But yeah, I mean, it's a detail component, so it should go to the view unless somehow a detail component was put into a view and now it's not understanding that view. What do I have turning off sections?
And I would also try cutting a new section because sometimes we always called them gremlins, but sometimes you do get a view that ends up being corrupt somehow.
That's right.
And so we'll do weird things like that. And if you just recreate it.
So if I hit rotate and I came in here and did
So it was a line-based detail component.
I don't think that should matter. 0.1.
Yeah.
So now I've rotated the cross section, and if I come over here, it's still there. But what if I went to go create similar? Yeah, I got nothing. Let's rotate it even more just to see. Yeah, cool. Delete those dimensions. I don't care. Let's go back to that cross section. These are still here. Can I create another one? You said it was line based. Let's see if that matters. Rebar. Oh, that's right. I don't have any of my line-based families in here because I had to use the out-of-the-box ones. So there's none in here. So yeah, I don't know because detail components should be associated to the view. So my question would be, I would try regenerating a new view and then copy all the annotated stuff to the clipboard and paste it into the current view and call it a day. Because that I've never, not saying it didn't happen, I've just never seen that happen.
I always believe that.
I mean, Revit does bizarre things, so I'm never going to say people are crazy. It doesn't happen, but yeah, I'm just trying to think of.
We're all lucky if it hasn't happened.
Yeah, we're all just lucky. We're just not as fortunate as you getting that to happen. There we go. Yeah, so I've even rotated and I'm not getting that problem. So I can't reproduce it, so I'm not sure. Even with rotating a crazy view around. So sorry about that one. Don't have one for you.
And let's see. So got a couple left. So Ryan's asking, what are different ways to obtain the volume of something in Revit? Sort of a general question. Is it just restricted to rooms?
Well, everything in Revit will give you a volume property. So if I go, let's go back to the 3D view here. If I grab a wall, that wall is going to give me in its properties the volume. So it's telling me the cubic feet of that. So is the floor. It's going to give me the volume. So everything in Revit gives you a volume for what you're looking for. If you're trying to get that like in a list form, you should be able to go do a schedule. So if I go over here to my schedules and I probably have one for like floors or walls or something in here, structural wall schedule, I can add the field of volume inside of here. It should be there. Yeah. So I can add the volume for each one of those elements. I can, sort and group. I can calculate totals, whatever. But yeah, everything in Revit, not everything, but the majority, especially if you add the system families, should give you that volume category to it. If it doesn't, and you're like, oh, it was my own custom family, and my own custom family doesn't give me a volume value, and what I always do is I will temporarily assign a material to it called my volume material. And then I just do a material takeoff and I use that material to do this for me. So I do this often, like, hey, I need to know what the, physical square footage is of the face of this wall or something like that. I'll apply a material to it, and then I can go get the schedule of the either square footage or volume of that material, and then I know what the volume or square footage of that object is. So that's kind of one of the tools that to work around if it's not an out of the box, or excuse me, not a system family, because you don't necessarily get the volume out of like every single element you create. I'm trying to think if there was anything in here that wasn't out of the box. And I can't think if there is. I'm trying to think. No, I think everything's like system families. I don't think any of these were custom families that I created in here. These are all. Well, no. So like footings won't. So like these won't give you a volume. So hopefully that answers the question. What else we got?
Yeah, I guess those you could just do some math in your schedule.
You can do math and you can do math in the family itself, but if it's in irregular shape, I just assign a material to it and call it a day.
Yeah. Fabulous. Okay, let's see. What do you think the best way to do slopes and counterslope roof systems for structural? What's the best way to pitch 1,000 joists for the counterslopes, high point and low point?
If you're pitching joists, then I would not be modeling them flat. I would be modeling them associated to what I always call, actually, I have it inside of here. So like if I needed to change the elevation like of all of these here, so what I've done inside of this one, my high wall category, so what I've done in all of these is I wanted these to be plumb. So I needed these all to be plumb, not perpendicular to the work plane. And when I want them to be plumb, then what I end up doing is what I do a beam system. And that beam system is associated to these elements. So if I change these elements or change the slope of these elements, actually more particularly that one and this one, then all of these beams are going to go along for the ride. How I always do that, and I have a thing called slope framing. I've got these little generic families inside of here that are, I call them my reference columns. And they're literally a column that has no 3D geometry. They only have symbol 3D line work to do this. But what I do is I take these columns and I attach these columns to the roof. And then what I've done is, I'm gonna hide the roof real quick here, then what, our floor. Then what I've done is these members here that represent my L angles, I can also have these as reference members as well, that again, no model geometry, just a 3D symbolic line. But what I can do is then I take these and in their properties, I can do what's called a start attachment type. And when you look at the start attachment type, by default, it's all called end elevation, which means I can change those to be whatever elevation I want. But if I change those to be set to distance, if they're tied into a column, I can change them to be set to distance. And then once I do that, those move up and down with this column. This column is attached to the roof or floor. So what ends up happening inside of there is if I take that roof or floor, I can take this and change the slope of my roof or floor. Oh, cool. That's a height offset from level. That's a floor. I thought I did it with a slope. I must have done it with a slope arrow. So if I go edit the boundary, yeah, no, I did it with define slope. Cancel. Where's my slope? Oh, there it is. I'm just blind. So if I change that to be 4 degrees, you're going to see that I probably changed it to be too much and I missed this. Boom, boom, boom. But then you'll see inside of here, all of my members have went with it. So now all these are sloping. It wouldn't matter which direction I was sloping those, or even if I did my beam system angled, by setting it up that way, that's how I control 1,000 beams to be set up. Because I use the beam system, associate those to the beams, regardless if those are real beams or what I call reference beams. Those reference beams are associated to columns, real or reference, and then I attach those to the member that needs to be sloped. If I wanted all of these perpendicular to the roof, then I go create a work plane, either using the underside of that roof or a reference plane. And if you do that, then they will come up perpendicular to their work plane. And that's how I would set them up that way. So if you still need them to be perpendicular, then you do them as a work plane based. If you needed them to be plumb, then you can do them in this, what I call the beam system associativity to beams to roofs scenario. So hopefully that answers the question on that.
Very nice. And Mark saying, oh, so then followed up, what if you have both?
Like if some of these needed to be rotated perpendicular and some not, yeah, I'd be doing a beam system with 12-foot spacing and then just changing up. I might model it twice. So I might do half of them where they're associated to the work plane and then the other half of them where they're associated to the elements. But I'd still be using a beam system regardless. I would just set the work plane for that beam system to be the underneath side of the deck.
All right, hopefully that works, Ben. Okay. And see, 2 left. So hopefully this will be quick. So Joseph's asking, do you have any insights for R25 or maybe newer versions if we'll be able to align view titles?
I can't say anything on that one specific, but I would just say go look at the Revit roadmap. They do update the Revit roadmap because I did see on one of those where they're actually one of the things that they have in the working. I don't know if it was in progress for the next release or they're looking into it. I can't remember what the roadmap said, but allowing arrays to have 0 or 1 value. So like if that comes out in 25, I'm upgrading. I don't care. So, but just go look, John, just go look at the Revit roadmap. Just Google the Revit roadmap and you'll be able to find it and that'll tell you everything they're looking at. I can't tell you if I saw anything about aligning view titles or not off the top of my head.
Well, so view titles now you can align already using Dynamo, but you can't change the extension line. I think that's how it was.
So you can, is there, through the API you can align them or just like, is there a tool to align?
Well, we've got Dynamo scripts that move all of our view titles. So I think
Yeah, so the API is open so you can make this line up with your object, but you can't change the length of the line.
So if you're using the extension line, you still have to do that. If you can remember it. And I feel like that was maybe 23, 22 or 23. I don't know. We keep going. We go back and do our templates in like 22.
Yeah.
So,
It's like, when did I upgrade that? I don't
yeah,
remember.
I can't remember. But yeah, so Joseph, you can, but the title, and that again is a Dynamo thing. So if you're not super Dynamo-y, then that's not very helpful.
It looks like we got Rowan's last question, and that's okay because we're 12 minutes over. So,
Look at that. Okay, so Rowan's question is, what are your thoughts on curtain walls versus railings for modeling fences? I've always leaned on curtain walls as fences because they can host doors or gates. However, railings can host a topography. Do you have any tips, tricks, or add-ins?
I always do railings as railings. I know curtain walls people do. I
Railings
mean,
for everything.
I do railings for everything. Yes. Um, Originally, ironically, the original version of Revit, curtain walls were the railing tool. Like I don't even think it was called curtain walls. I think it was called the repeater tool or something stupid like that. And that's how everybody did railings originally. And then they came back and added a railing tool, renamed the curtain wall tool to be curtain wall tool. So that's kind of what happened. But I think for me, 90% of the time, I do railings as railings, and I'm pretty successful on using the railing tool. I know Tom, who's on here, tweeted a while back, "Hey, how do I do spiral barbed wire?" And for me, that's very simple and easy to create as a railing. I also think railings are great because, A, they're going to follow the slope of the stair automatically, slope of a wall, as you said, slope of site, etc. But you can do a lot with the railings as long as you start breaking them down. Now, you're correct, they can't host doors, but the question starts coming in is, do they need to host the door? So like for me, I just created unhosted door families. So I have door families that are unhosted. And the only reason I've done this as a door family is my clients wanted these to schedule as a door. So when I look at that, they're like, yes, I need to schedule all of my gates as a door. They need to show up in a door schedule. If they don't need to, and this would be kind of an example of a gate as well, this gate that I have here, this is a railing support. So you can do it as a railing support as well. And the big reason why I like all of these, and with railings, I find to be even a little bit more flexible than curtain walls in a lot of cases, is if I tab select, I can grab this baluster. Again, I'm doing air quotes on that, but I can grab that railing support, unpin it, or it was unpinned, or repin it and put it back. But I can come in here and grab this railing support and unpin it, and I can move it wherever the heck I want it to go. So as long as you start breaking down your railings into thinking of railings not necessarily how they were originally, but hey, we've got supports and those supports can start being anything we want them to be. I can also take that support if I've unpinned it and change it out to be some sort of other support, right? So I can make it any other type of support, including a gate. Okay, that gate's set up to be top hosted or whatever. It's not the gate I thought I was grabbing, but you get the point here. So I can swap that out to be what I want it to be. It's still going to be part of the railing category. It's going to schedule as a part of a railing category. It's going to VG as part of the railing category. And I have that all to be there. The only time this doesn't make a ton of sense, and that's why I have examples over here, is when you're trying to be like, oh, gee, I just wanted a glass extrusion, like this perimeter handrail, and Revit does something crazy like this, right? So when it starts doing these crazy things, again, most of the time for me in like a schematic design, I don't care. I leave my railing like that. I'm okay with that. It's schematic. It's probably going to change or get VE'd out anyway. But once it comes down to it, I can still take this same railing I had, and I've still got these little like glass clip extrusions in here to represent this. And then I start replacing those with adaptive components. So this one over here actually has the gap. It all looks all pretty. And what I'm doing is snapping this adaptive component to that railing support that I already had inside of there. And again, I can tab select to get this railing support. Get to the tab. Come on, tab it. What am I grabbing? There we go. I can unpin it. I can take that, move it around. Oh, shoot, I pinned it. Undo, right click, select previous. And now I can just take this and move it. And as I move that, my adaptive component is going to adjust with it. So I'm a big proponent of using the railing tool as a railing. I might need to add in an adaptive component for this, but that's how I go through and start setting that up. And again, as you can see, this is my all railings hand file with the exception of a few adaptive components. And if you're talking like normal fences, I've got the spiral barbed wire fence here, regular barbed wire fence here, crazy gate system over here, even crazier spiked prison type looking handrail over here.
Here
So
it
it's
is.
just getting to know all those tools and doing what you need to do. Again, as Melissa said, you can go even farther. This is my client does a lot of bars. This is my foot post for a bar, etc. So I find these to be much easier than trying to be like, oh, in a curtain wall, now I need to make, all these different mullion types because this would be a mullion type, and then I've got a mullion type here, and then they're going to segment where I don't want them to segment. I don't know. A lot of times for me, I prefer to use the railing tool. I'm not saying don't use the curtain wall, just I prefer railing in 90% of my cases. No, Marta, I share this my railing file with anybody. You can have it. Just email me.
There you go. You too can have spiky green fences.
You too can have spiky fences and twisted barbed wire. And then if you are in this file, the level 1 view, where is my level 1 view? Even gives you slight descriptions on how the heck my theory was for using these railings. That was the original ones that were good. All these over here, just me being crazy and having fun. So there's no descriptions on those.
Nice. Oh, and Marta was just asking if the rail file was for sale, and yeah, we're just gonna have to say it's really expensive. You're gonna have to email Brian. That means
takes a little bit of your time.
I don't know if that's too expensive or if that's good.
Beautiful. Well, in that case, we're done, and only went over by 18 minutes this time. One of these days, we'll actually do an hour-long Revit radio. But if there's questions, I like to answer them. So. And we appreciate everyone's time of joining us. And great with all the great questions. I'm glad I didn't really, you had so many questions because I didn't have a whole lot to talk about at the beginning.
So. Very good.
And I will get back into looking into the area reinforcement because I do know that I'm pretty sure that'll work for the overframing. But other than that, hopefully I will see you guys all at the beginning of next year. So I'm assuming we're still, I haven't even looked at the calendar. Is it like, is it the first or is the first Tuesday like too close to the new year? First Tuesday is the 2nd.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Nobody wants to really work, so I'm sure they'd much rather.
I'm assuming we'll keep it on the 2nd because I think that's fine. First everybody's going to recover, and this, we're not going to see your hungover on the 2nd still. So we'll keep it on the 2nd, and I appreciate everybody for showing up, and hopefully we'll see you at the beginning of next year.
Yes, and happy holidays all.
Yep. Thanks, everyone.